Good morning and welcome to AutoCAD Civil 3D Volumes Dashboard this morning. We have Brian Haley, PE, one of our civil technical specialists. There's no one of our about it. He is the man. My name's Stan Henne. I'm the Business Development Manager here at CAD-1. We want to welcome you to another webinar. We've had real good luck with these lately. A lot of people attend, and we're glad to see that. We hope we're providing a real valuable service to you all. So we'll go through a few housekeeping slides, and then we'll get started with the presentation. The first slide you see so often, and if you're hearing us, and by the way, if you could hit the little raise your hand button and let us know you are hearing us, we can see that. You can see where the raise your hand button is down there. And you can change between phone and mic and speakers, but if you're hearing us, you're probably fine. If you want to minimize the console so it's out of the way and you can see more of the screen, it's a little orange and white arrow now instead of the little double arrows, but same thing. Most important box here, however, is the questions box. If you do have questions, please feel free to type them in. We will answer those as close to in context as we possibly can. So with that, let's go over a few of the upcoming classes that we have on, actually this one's kaput.
I put in the wrong one.
Yeah, we've got...
yeah, that one's already been done, huh?
Yes, it is. Unless we travel back in time, we're going to miss that one. Civil 3D Styles class, September 21st. We have another Civil 3D Fundamentals class, the 24th through the 27th of September, and then we have the hydrology, pipes, and grading classes the week of October 15th. Contact us about those.
And actually, the fundamentals classes, I just put in the wrong week. It is next week. So there's still time to get into that.
I was going to say I didn't see a fundamentals class in here this week, but anyway, whatever. So that'll start, let's see, 17th, 18th, 19th through the 20th, 21st, 22nd.
Yep.
So if you want to get in, give us a call. And we want to let you know of the ever-present Autodesk promotions. The promotion called It's Time to Make the Move was extended once again through August 31st. It's a pretty decent promotion if you've got older software, 3 years old or older, and you want to get it upgraded and keep it viable. It's a pretty valuable asset, and Autodesk is going to make some pretty significant changes in upgrade policies as of February 1st or thereabouts next year. So if you do have older software, you might want to contact us and let us know. There's also, with the economic downturn, there's also been a lot of people who have had to let subscriptions lapse for a while. Autodesk will be delivering a lot of, have already started and will in the future be delivering a lot of content and product and all sorts of things via subscription in the future. In fact, it will be the way to be. So if you'd like to get your subscription back, you can do so with some waive of late fees and so forth there. So not a bad time to do that now through the end of October. If you want a seat of LT, there's an automatic $150 rebate on a seat of LT, and there is one other promotion, which is the 0% financing. Autodesk is offering 0% financing on any orders over $10,000. There's also pretty good financing on orders under $10,000. It's just not 0% for 12 months. So that's available too through the end of October.
And as Stan was mentioning promotions, I just want to show this real quick. I wasn't planning on doing it, but the productivity tools for AutoCAD Civil 3D 2013 just came out yesterday.
Yep.
So this is one of the things that's available if you're on subscription.
And you know, I know for a lot of people, I don't mean to be apologetic here necessarily, but for a lot of people, subscription has been a sore point in the past. They hate paying it, or they just don't see the value. I don't use the new product every year, this, that, and the other. we get you. We understand. You know, sometimes it's not convenient, but we do want to, at the same time, stress so that you don't miss out. Autodesk is really going to start changing things to more kind of a stream of delivery rather than new products over the next few years. They're going to deliver a lot more content and features and things like that via subscription. So it's well worth at least checking into it as a business option for yourselves. So with that, Brian, I'm going to turn it over to you, I guess, and we'll
great. Thanks,
get rolling.
So today, what are we going to be talking about? Well, we're talking about volumes. How much dirt are we moving? Okay, yeah, I know it's soil, but I like to call it dirt. So the first thing we're going to be talking about is, you know, how do you go about calculating these volumes? We're going to be talking about volume surfaces. These have been around forever, it seems like. I'm pretty sure we had these in DCA, if you guys can think that far back. So we're going to talk a little bit about volume surfaces, but we're going to be spending most of our time on the dashboard, the volumes dashboard. This thing is cool. I really dig the volumes dashboard. It was introduced as a subscription benefit in 2012. It's been incorporated into the 2013 software. So what I'm going to show you here with the dashboard works in either version. Sometimes you just need to get a volume of a piece of the project, and we can do that using the bounded areas. And then I'm going to show a really cool example of using the dashboard and how do you go about creating a filling curve. So with that, we're going to go ahead and get started. But before I get started, I kind of want to get an idea of who we have here. And I'm missing my polls. Where are my polls? Give me just a second here, folks.
Oh, they're the top. There
yeah,
you go.
my polls got disappeared. So let me go ahead and start with the poll. So let's see. Here's a good one since we were talking about it. Are you on subscription? Just quick yes, no, just curious to see who's on subscription, who's not on subscription.
Like we got
We're not
good bunch.
Yeah, so far the one person who's answered is on subscription, so that's good.
Oh, it's 1%. Obey.
All right, so it looks like most people are on subscription, so if you're still running 2012, you are going to have access to this tool. That's awesome. What version of Civil 3D are you using? Are you one of those early adopters? You're already on 2013, looking forward to 2014. Maybe you're still on 12 or 11, 2010 or earlier perhaps. Maybe you're not even using Civil 3D and you're just checking it out. That's fine as well. I'd love to see you guys here. So let's see. Take a look at the results here. Not quite what I expected. I kind of expected to see a few more people on 13. But there are some folks that are still that aren't using Civil 3D. So welcome. Hope you can see something you like. And let's see.
And again, blatant sales pitch for those of you who were on the 2011 or older. And if you see something you like here today, really between now and the end of August you'll get a price break over what you'll get after that. So, give us a call if it's important to you.
All right, so for those of you that aren't using Civil 2013 yet, why? Just curious. Maybe you're just going to wait for the first service pack. I know a lot of people do that. Some of you just haven't done it yet, and as soon as we can, we will. You're planning to, but you're not sure when, or no, I'm really not going to do that. Just
got a project that's holding you up or whatever.
Yeah, it could be something like that. Or maybe you're not on Civil 3D yet, and that would make sense.
Well, looks like
yeah, it looks like some people are waiting for the service pack. I kind of expected to see more with the service pack, but well, excellent.
It's always good to see these polls. So.
Yeah. And then the most important question I have for this particular presentation is who's the better Manning? Peyton Manning, the football player, or Robert Manning, the guy who developed the Manning's equation? Just see who the real geeks are.
Yeah.
Somebody posts, what about Eli?
Yeah. Now that we know why you wear your Manning jersey here at the office, we know which Manning you're talking about. As much of a geek as you are.
All right, let's go take a look at the results here. It's not quite as many civil 3D or civil engineering hardcore folks here as I was hoping to see, but that's all right.
All right, before people start leaving the webinar, we probably better get on with something of substance.
All right, so again, we're going to be talking about the volumes dashboard. So the first thing we need to talk about are volumes. So the most common way of calculating volumes is through a volume surface. Give me just a second here, folks. All right, so most people know how to create a volume surface. You create your volume surface, and it compares two different volumes and all sorts of fun stuff like that, or two different surfaces. Where am I? Go to webinar thing, go. There it is, sorry. Oops. So what does a volume surface do? Well, it compares the two surfaces, and this is, you know, maybe new to some folks. Hopefully not. Hopefully most people here already understand how this works, but I want to go through it anyways. So when you calculate a volume surface, the elevation of the volume surface is the distance from the base surface to the comparison surface. So what is this distance here? So if I'm in a fill situation, the elevation of my volume surface is going to be the distance from the base surface to the comparison surface. So if this was 1 foot, the elevation of my volume surface at this location would be 1. I'm in 1 foot of fill. If I'm in a cut situation and I'm cutting down to the design ground, let's say this is half a foot of cut here, the elevation of the volume surface would be a minus 0.5. So the volume surface is the distance from the base surface to the comparison surface. And that's the way the volume surface works. So if you understand that, making some of these other things will just kind of help make sense. Oops. So let me switch over to Civil 3D real quick. I'm drawing. We'll get to that drawing later. Let me open the drawing I want. So here I have a drawing. I've got a couple of surfaces in here. And typically the way we've gone about doing volumes in the past is we create the volume surface. But in this case, we're going to use the volumes dashboard. So the volumes dashboard is actually found on the Analyze tab, on the volumes and materials, and there's this cool green and red icon here. It's a cut, fill, balancing icon symbol. All right, so I'm going to run the volumes dashboard, and it brings up your panorama, same place as just about all of your other tools in Civil 3D pop up in, right? And we're going to create a new volume surface. So if you're going to be using the volumes dashboard, you're going to be using it off of volume surfaces. The volumes dashboard is a replacement for the old volume computation tool that was in 12 and everything earlier than that. So I'm going to create a new volume surface. Choose a type. So we have tin surfaces and we have a grid surface. Honestly, the only one I've ever used is a tin volume surface. My belief is the grid volume surface was a throwback to the days when our computers couldn't handle the software. So the software could compute all this wonderful stuff, but the computers themselves couldn't handle that much data. And so the grid volume surface was a way of approximating the surfaces, whereas the tin volume surface will give you an exact volume between your two surface models. Between the models, not necessarily, you know, what's going to be out there on site, you know, how well did you model it, but so I always use the tin volume surface, especially nowadays that we've got Windows 7 and 64-bit operating systems and 275 million gigs of RAM, right? So I'm going to give this a name. I'm going to call this one Building Pad Volumes. I know, really original. Now, when I'm working with volume surfaces, the thing I like to do is I like to use a style that displays the results of an elevation banding, the elevation analysis. So if you're using the default template that comes with Civil 3D, there is a style called elevation banding 2D. So this is the style that I'm going to use in this example. It's really cool. You can give it a render material if you so desire, but you do need to supply it with a base surface and a comparison surface. So the base surface, what was there before? So my base surface in this case is going to be the existing ground. And my comparison surface is going to be my building pad grading group surface. So this is the new. So the base is the old, the comparison is the new. At the surface itself, you can put in a cut and fill factor. I don't do this. I always leave my cut and fill factors for the volume surface set to 1. Always, 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 if you're using the volumes dashboard. If you're not using the volumes dashboard, then yeah, you can come in here and play around with your cut and fill factors. But the problem is I don't think there's something you can change after the fact. We'll try it. I've been telling people you can't, but come to think of it, I haven't tried it in quite a while, so we'll give it a shot. And so when I create this volume surface, it gets automatically added to the volumes dashboard. It gives me cut and fill numbers. It gives me this cool new net graph. Hey, this one actually works. It kind of shows you where that balance point is. So you can see where we've got a lot more fill than we do cut in this kit situation. And over here it also gives me that same information. Because I use the elevation banding style, I get these pretty colors down here. Ooh, they're pretty, right? And the different colors represent the different depths of cut and fill. Remember, the volume surface is let me try that again. The elevation of the volume surface is the distance from the base surface to the comparison surface. So if we're in a positive elevation, we're in a fill condition. If we're in a negative elevation, we're in a cut situation. Now, this is a really cool technique. This works in 12 and 13. You can actually run an analysis on your surface. So if you grab your surface, go to your surface properties, and on the analysis tab of the surface properties, this is for the volume surface, you can run an elevation analysis. And the cool thing is there's a new type of elevation analysis you can run that's known as a range interval. Or, in the case of a volume surface, I would do range interval with datum. And so what this does is it creates ranges on your surface. So every 3 feet, change the color. Now if you do it with datum, you're going to do it every 3 feet above the datum be one shade of color. Everything 3 feet below the datum will be another range of color. So if I just do number of ranges, and I like to do this first just to kind of get an idea of my depths of cut and fill. So you can see I've got almost 20 feet of fill in this situation and almost 6 feet of cut. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this in 3-foot intervals.
That's kind of a problem.
What, 20 feet of cut?
A lot of fill and a lot of
20 feet of fill?
Yeah.
It depends upon the project. If you're doing mining, that's nothing. Right?
Yeah, you got to put it somewhere.
That's right. So I'm going to change this to a range interval with datum. My datum is going to be 0. And I'm going to do this in 3-foot intervals. So every 3 feet it's going to change colors. I actually run the analysis now. Okay, so maybe 3 feet wasn't good. Maybe we'll do 5 feet. Run the analysis, and you can change this. Okay, that looks good. And there it goes. So everything from 15 to 20 feet is this dark green. Everything from 10 to 15 is a lighter green. Everything from 5 to 10 is even lighter. Everything from 0 to 5 is that bright green. And then the reds do the same thing. Now, one thing I don't like about this particular tool is, in my opinion, it does one of them backwards. I would much rather have it go light to dark and light to dark. Well, you can just come in here and manually change it. So if you click on any one of these colors, it'll show you what color it is. So that one's color 18, that one's color 14, and that one's color 10. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down here and I'm just going to make this one color 10, and this one up here color 18. Leave the 14 one in the middle. I wish it did this by default. It doesn't, but it's not the end of the world. Select OK. And now that makes a lot more sense on my surface there. Right, anywhere that's red, I'm in a cut situation. Anywhere that's green, I'm in a fill situation. And if you want, you can put a table in here that tells you what these numbers are. So this is just a volume surface. The only thing I used the dashboard for in this case was just to create the volume surface. So let's go back to PowerPoint, because we all love PowerPoint, right? So the volumes dashboard. I already showed you where you can find this. Again, it's under the Analyze tab. When you're trying to compute things, you go to the Analyze tab. So I'm going to compute volumes. I go to the Analyze tab. And when you bring it up, it brings up the dashboard. So I've already shown you this. Actually, let me go back to that. I'm going to show you some other things that you can do with the dashboard itself. So as I mentioned before, I like to leave my cut and fill factors for my volume surface at 1. And the reason I like to do that is because in my dashboard, I can assign a cut and a fill factor. Now, I've talked with several people, and the cut and fill factors can kind of be confusing. Well, what do I use? Do I use a cut and a fill factor, just a cut factor, just a fill factor? What am I trying to do? Well, it really depends upon the situation you're in. A great example that I like to use is, okay, I'm cutting out all this dirt. And I know I'm going to have to haul this dirt off the site. I've got 200 yards of dirt that I need to haul off site, and my trucks can hold 10 yards of dirt. I'm just picking numbers. I don't know if that's a reason. That seems like a lot of dirt for a truck. But anyways, this truck can hold 10 yards. I've got 200 yards to haul off my site, so that means I need to have 20 truckloads leave my site. But when I'm all said and done, I had 25 truckloads leave the site. Why is that? Well, when you pile the dirt in the truck, it fluffs up. So 20 yards or 10 yards in the ground makes 12 yards in the truck, and it can't handle the 10 yards that you had in the ground. So that's where, for example, a cut factor would come into play. I can come in here and I can assign a cut factor of 20%, so 1.2. And when I do that, my numbers change. Another good example is when I pull the dirt out of the ground. I saw a great comic strip. It showed the kid digging a hole and then taking the dirt and putting it back in the hole, and he couldn't fill up the hole. And he asked his dad, he was like, how come I can't fill up the hole with the dirt I pulled out of the hole? And the dad responded back, well, you didn't dig it deep enough. Or something along those lines, right? And so what we have here is when I'm taking dirt from one location on my site to another location on the site, well, they're going to be at different densities. And so maybe at that time you want to put it, not one, right, a fill factor. Now, when I pull out 3 yards of dirt, it's only going to fill 2.7 yards of hole. So you can put in a fill factor maybe of 0.8. So you can go through and start making these adjustments. It depends upon what you're trying to calculate. There is no one answer for this. So I'm going to leave those set at 1 for now. It shows you the results. So it gives you an area. Let me go ahead and make this a bit bigger so it's easier to see here. Get some more numbers off here.
Ryan, while you're doing that, I see a hand popped up on our console screen here, and if you maybe you just hit the hand button accidentally. If you do have a question, please remember to type it into the question box, and we will get it answered as quickly as possible. Ah, there it is. Okay, that's what I thought. Ben asks, the only cut fill maps I have ever seen have used reds and blues. Is there a way to change the default colors?
Sure, just change the blue to green. And then make the filmants. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, just change the standard so it matches Civil 3D. Yeah, that's the ticket. Is there a way to change the standard? Honestly, I'm not sure. I haven't tried that before. If you go to the style of the surface, so if I edit the surface style, under the Analysis tab, under Elevations, you can choose the color scheme. So in this case, you can see I'm using the rainbow scheme.
And that's what Kelvin commented, use the rainbow.
So if you try some of the different ones, maybe they'll come out differently. I'm not exactly sure, honestly. Let's try one. So let me go to the blues, just because it's different. Oh, wait a minute. Is that something that I... Aha! Right here in the style. So if you change create ranges by to range interval with datum, you can change the above datum color scheme and the below datum color scheme. So I want the above datum color scheme not to be green, but to be blues. I'm guessing here. I've never actually tried this. And we'll go back to the surface properties and rerun the analysis, and look at that, it's blue.
There you go.
Hey, I learned something new today. Thank you.
There you go. And let's see.
So Diana, we'll get to your question later, all right?
Thanks, Diana.
All right. So another cool thing that you can do here with the volumes dashboard, and I don't have an example here, but it's really easy to do. A lot of times you're going to be calculating a volume here, and you're going to be calculating a volume there, and maybe over there, and I've got several different surfaces that I need to calculate volumes for. And I want a total. Well, you can continue to add surfaces to this list, and then whatever you have checked on will display over here on the left. So if you notice, if I uncheck this surface, this over here is empty. Now these numbers still stay. So I can still get the volume for that surface. But whatever surface is I have toggled on will give me a total over here. Now when you first get into the volumes dashboard, you'll notice that you won't see this. You actually have to toggle this on, and that's that top left icon up there on the dashboard. So if you hit that icon there, that'll toggle that total on and off. And let's see, what does that say? It's called it a net graph panel. So that'll toggle on and off the net graph panel. Personally, I like to leave it on just because, well, I think it's cool, the red and the green, right? And so you can just continue to add additional ones. And it's like, oh, what about just this one and this one? We'll toggle just those on, and it'll give you the total over there.
Brian is a great lover of Christmas, so he...
Just not Christmas music. I could do without the Christmas music. Now we can also... Ooh, we're lagging here.
Yeah, we've got a little bit of a
there we go.
lag in our internet. So,
all right. So we can also put in bounded areas. So I need to know the volume of this area of the surface, not the rest of it, just this one little piece. So in this case, I'm interested in the volume for this building pad over here and this building pad over here. Now, just to make my drawing easier to read, I'm going to take my volume surface and send it to the back of the display order. That way I can see my design on top of it. That's much prettier. Just to throw this out real quick, if you've been using transparency with volume surfaces and this banding stuff in 2013, the transparency does not work on an elevation analysis displayed surface for some reason. Not sure why. Hopefully it'll be fixed in a service pack sometime, but just want to throw that out real quick. So I'm just going to draw a polyline through here, so I want to know, let's see, let me try to actually draw this something meaningful here. So split this surface through there like that. And over here on the other one, oops, I'm going to draw another boundary, and I'm making this one match the edge exact. So I now have two closed polylines here. Got a closed polyline for the east side, and I have a closed polyline for the west side. And here in the middle where they match up, I've drawn them directly on top of each other. And that way I know that we're not going to be missing anything, we're not going to overlap anything. And I want to add this as I want to know the area volume of this part versus this part. So I'm going to create a bounded area. So you select the surface that you want to add the bounded area to, and then use the add bounded, whatever it's called, button. Now what's it called? It's called add bounded volume. So I select add bounded volume. I select the polyline. And at first you might think, oh, nothing happened. But if you look up here now, you'll see a little plus next to the surface name. Go ahead and expand that out. And now I have that bounded area listed down below here. I'm going to do that again. I'm going to add the other area in as well. So I grab the east side this time. And it adds it again. And if you want, you can come in here and name these. So I'm going to name this one West Pad. And I'm going to name this one East Pad. So you can rename those. And what's really nice is as I select these, you'll notice in the drawing, they highlight. So which one area am I working on? And it shows you the volumes for each one over here. So the cut and fill for each one. And then if I put in you can put in different cut and fill factors for each one as well. So my west pad is on, I figured out that I want to put in a fill factor of 0.8. But for the east pad, I want to put in a fill factor of 0.7. I'm just making up numbers here. And so your adjusted numbers have now changed based off of this factor. As you can see, my net for everything total is 18,776. But I want to know what it is with those specific cut factors, and now my net is 12,552. So it's a great way to, calculate these things. And the other nice thing about this, if I decide, you know what, I don't like where this stuff is, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to modify this polyline. Actually, I'm going to modify both of them because I used good drafting techniques. I can modify them both at the same time.
A little bit full of ourselves, aren't we?
No, well, everybody here that's on this particular webinar has good drafting techniques, right? Absolutely. Right, use your snaps. And as I do this, you notice the red highlight of that one area changed as well. So at the bounded area is actually tied to the polyline. You adjust the polyline, you adjust the bounded area.
Diana asks, 2D or 3D polyline, question mark. The elevation will attach to the polyline?
In this case, this was just a 2D polyline. I am just defining an area. I'm not defining any sorts of elevations or whatnot. So what is the volume within this area? I don't think it matters if it's a 2D or 3D polyline, but it definitely will not use the elevations of whatever it is you select. So might as well just be a 2D polyline. They're easier to manage than 3D polylines. So that's the bounded volume. So let me head back over to PowerPoint here real quick. And we're going to get into this filling curve. This is cool. So I was working with a group of mining folks, and what they needed to do is they created this pile of tailings, and they wanted to know, okay, so we've designed this thing, and this thing is going to be built over the next 5 or 10 years as we dig more dirt out of the ground. It's eventually going to be built up. What we need to know is at this specific elevation, how much have we used of this? So how much have we filled at the specific elevation? So in this case, we've got I just did a quick cross-section through it. I've got the proposed ground, that's the blue line, and I've got the existing ground. And what we need to know is, at this specific level, what is the volume between these two surfaces? Now, as you can see here, I can't just simply do a volume calculation between here and here. That's not going to work. I can't do the stage storage tools because, well, I need to know the volume between here and here. I can't just compare this to this. So it was getting really quite difficult, and we're trying to figure out a way to do this. And here's the approach I came up with. Now, just to kind of give you an idea of what it is we want, this is the volume that I need to know. What is this particular volume here? Now, there's several things that I can calculate. I can do a volume calculation between this elevation that I want, so I'm going to call this the fill level, and the design. So these numbers I can calculate. This is the excess stuff. I can also calculate a number between the fill level and the existing ground. And if you notice, let me go ahead and back up here real quick. This number here, the desire that I want, is basically this number minus this number. That's the area, that's what I need to calculate. And so what I've done is I've used the volumes dashboard to help me calculate those numbers and then combine them together and give me the ultimate number. So this is the approach I took. Let me go ahead and close this drawing. And I'm going to go open up another. Now, by the way, if I were to go open that drawing again, just so you guys can see, the volumes dashboard does remember what I've done in the past. So the old composite volume tool that we had back in 12 and earlier, this remembers. Oh, thank you. So I just want to throw that out real quick. So here's the situation I've got. Here's a cross-section I've drawn. So we're doing this filling in this case. All right, here's my existing ground. I got this existing ground off of a DEM file. This is just something I made up just solely for this particular purpose. And I did a grading, and here's what I've got. This is my design. I want to know at a specific elevation what is the volume of this. Now, you could create the volume surface and then do that elevation analysis, but that doesn't give you elevations. It gives you depths. And that's the problem that we're having here. Is if I do an elevation analysis, it tells me, okay, if I fill everything a foot, here's the volume. Well, I don't want that. I want it at a specific elevation. Now let me come over here to my prospector and show you how I've set this up. So I actually have three surfaces here. I have the existing ground. That's all those green and brown contours that you see there. I also have my stockpile surface. Those are the pink and green contours you have there. I also have another surface called this EG for filling curve. Now what this particular surface is, this is the existing ground clipped to the extent of my design. So they need to match the boundaries exactly for this particular tool to work. So if you notice here, I've got this alignment. It extends way beyond my design. But over here, my profile, my existing ground stops exactly at the design. And that's what we need in order for this to work. So the next thing I need to do is I need to create that level surface. So at this particular elevation, what's the volume? And the way I'm going to do that, I'm simply going to draw a rectangle around the project. I'm going to make this into a feature line just because I like feature lines. And so I'm going to make this into a feature line, make it a new site, and we'll call this level, just call it level. Everything else looks good there. It's now a feature line. I'm going to grab this feature line, and because it's a feature line, I can simply choose the Add to Surfaces break line, and I'm going to create a new surface, and I'm going to call it level. The style, I'm going to leave it set at no display. I really don't want to see this surface, but I just need to use it. So now I have this level surface out here. Right now it's at elevation 0. So I'm going to bring this feature line up. Now, one thing I like to do with this, unless you're working with huge data sets, I always like to make sure that all of these are set to rebuild automatic. So set your surfaces to rebuild automatic, and life will be a lot easier. Because anytime you make a change, things will just update. So what kind of elevations are we talking here? Let me just go ahead and look over here. So we're talking about elevation 95, 65. So that's the elevation I'm going to set to this feature line. So I'm simply going to raise it up to an elevation of 95, 65. And then I'm going to sample that on my alignment just so we can see it over there in the profile view.
And Brian, when you can get to it, Eric asks, can you please talk about different surfaces, surface strata, like topsoil depths for determining volumes?
So you're talking about like stripping surfaces. If I have time, I'll try to get to that. I'm not sure if we will. And honestly, I'm not prepared to talk about them today, so if I can figure out something, maybe we'll talk about it.
Or maybe we'll do another webinar.
Yeah. So I'm going to create this surface profile for this. I'm going to choose that level surface, and I'll just add it in. So as you can see now, profile view, I have that level surface. And the volume that I want is this at volume down here. So if I were to run the hatch command, it would hatch in that area, everything would be like hunky-dory, right? So we're going to use the volume dashboard to do this. I'm going to go to the Analyze tab. I'm going to do my volumes dashboard. And I'm going to create a volume surface. Now I actually need to create two different volume surfaces. The first volume surface that I'm going to create is going to compare the fill surface, that's the design, to the level surface. So I'm going to call this one fill to level. My base surface in this case is going to be the fill surface, so that's my stockpile. And my base surface is going to be my level surface, or my comparison is going to be the level. Right? I really don't want to see these, so I'm going to change these to a no display style. So what did we just do? I created the surface that will compare, that will calculate this volume here for me. I'm comparing the fill surface to the level surface. And what this volume, this little wedge of volume here is going to be, that is going to be, well, I'm going from the fill to the surface, so that's going to be a fill volume. Just keep that in mind here real quick. So I'm going to take that fill volume. I'm also going to create another volume surface, and this one is going to compare the existing ground, so e.g. to, I'm sorry, it's going to compare the level surface to the existing ground. So my base surface in this case is going to be my level surface, and my comparison surface is going to be the existing ground. So I'm going to use that existing ground for the filling curve. That's that trimmed out existing ground. So what does this surface do? Well, it calculates the volume from here down to there. And this is going to be a cut value. So I'm calculating a cut from here to here, and I'm calculating a fill from here to here. Now right now, if I were to toggle both of these on, well, the numbers here most definitely are going to be wrong. because it's still calculating all of this stuff up here. I need to get rid of that somehow. What is this? And what is this over here, right? So this is the fill for the level 2 existing ground. I don't want any of that to come into play, right? And what is this? This is the cut for the finished ground to the level surface. I don't want that to come into play. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to change those cut and fill factors up here. So my fill to level surface, I don't want it to calculate any cut, so I'm going to assign a cut factor of 0 to that. My level to existing ground, I don't want any to calculate any of this fill, so I'm going to set that fill factor to 0 as well. And so my cut, in this case, is the level to existing ground. So from here to here to here to here to here, right? My fill to level is this area. If I combine those together, my net gives me the volume at the specific elevation. So this is the number I'm after. And I'm using the volume dashboard to get me those numbers, and I'm using a cut factor of 0 to get rid of the pieces that I don't want. Now, just to double check this, so get back to PowerPoint here. So when I do this, in order to get rid of this little piece, this top piece, I came in and adjusted those factors here. And this is what gives me, that does the magic. Now, any engineer out there, you just don't stake your license on something that the computer spits out, right? You want to make sure that this works. So what we're going to do is we're going to create another surface in here, another volume calculation that just computes the volumes between the two.
It's not what you told us the other day.
All right, so I just want to know what the volume is, the total volume once this thing is completely filled. All right, so this is going to be stockpile volume.
Eric asks, and get to it when you can, please recap again how, when, why you would use this fill to level application.
All right, I'll recap when I'm done here with this. All right, so I'm going to compare my base surface is going to be the existing ground. So I'm actually going to use the existing ground, not the trimmed out one. My comparison surface is going to be my stockpile. All right, so it's calculating those volumes right now. It's doing a whole bunch of math.
Thinking some more.
Yep.
Still thinking.
Maybe I should have used the trimmed out one.
Thinking some more still.
So what about Peyton Manning?
Scratching its head. There we go.
All right, so I now have this new stockpile, and this is the total volume that we have. Now, if I were to take this level surface and move it all the way above everything, well, this number, my net over here, let me go ahead and toggle that off because that shouldn't be a part of that. Whoa. This net and this net should match. So let me do that. Let me take this volume surface and let's see what's my, let's be a good elevation to bring this up to. So we'll bring it up to 10,200. I told you this is pretty deep, right? So I'm going to do my, first of all, I'm going to make sure that my volume surfaces are set to rebuild automatic. I'll raise lower, what elevation did I say? I should have paid more attention.
10,200.
10,200. Is that a good one? Is that not? Okay, so we'll go 10,250, just to make sure we're above it. So when I take this and I raise this to 10,250. Wow, that was really high. Anyways, it's above it. This number here and this number here should match. And look at that, they do. Awesome. Now, if I were to take that level surface and move it lower than every single elevation on my particular project, right? This number here, this should be 0. So I'm going to take that, and again, I'm going to do the raise lower to an elevation of 2,000. So I know that's below everything in my site. Everything recomputes, and as you can see, I now have a net of 0. So I just like to do this just to double check, make sure everything works. Now, Eric was asking why I would want to do this. Where would this type of a thing come into play? Well, in this particular instance, it was a mining application. So they knew they were going to fill to a specific elevation. They were going to build this up to a specific elevation, and in this quarter, they're going to get this much dirt, so how deep would this thing be? So this is where they particularly came up with this particular necessary. Now,
yeah, they were trying to determine how much of the original design they had left, how much they'd already used,
right.
So forth and so on.
Now, this doesn't give you the curve. So if you actually need to create a curve, you simply come in here, grab, oops, wrong button, grab the feature line, that level surface, and move it up to the elevation that you need. Look at the dashboard, jot the number down in Excel. Move it up to the next elevation, look at the dashboard, jot it down in Excel, and use Excel to actually create the curve for the filling here. So it doesn't quite do everything, but the guys that were doing this, they were creating a separate design for each level, and it was, in order to calculate this curve, it was taking them several days of, several 8-hour days just to do this. And so I like to show this off because it shows, some of the things you can do with the volumes dashboard here.
So we've got don't know where you're at with the presentation, but we've got a question from Diana, and then
Okay.
we've got Eric's question from a little earlier. That if you want to touch on it or whatever, otherwise we'll get an answer to Eric at some point here. So Diana, are you ready?
Yeah. Go for
Okay.
it.
Diana asks, is it possible to use this tool to calculate the volume of a detention pond, water versus dirt, obviously?
Okay. So, Diana, yes, you can use this. It really doesn't give you a whole lot of additional tools to do this. You would create your water surface, and then compare that to your pond surface. And that'll give you the volume of the pond. You can go in here and say, hey, I want to, depending upon how you set it up, set either the cut or the fill to a cut factor or a fill factor of 0. Depending upon which surface you set as your base surface and which one you did as your comparison surface. And then as you move it up and down, it'll give you the different volumes for those different elevations. Same concept here. You can do it that way. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But if you come under the Analyze tab and expand out Design, there is a, oops, now it went crazy on me. There is a stage storage tool that a lot of people will use to calculate pond type volumes. Basically, this just takes the area of the contours and does the stage storage calculation on it. You can either use the average end area or the conic approximation for it.
And then Kelvin asked, can you make cooler table outputs with the dashboard versus the old copy paste?
Oh, that's a good point. I didn't even bring that up, did I?
No, you didn't.
Ah, shame on me. Let's see. So this, I'm going to make this an elevation of 9440. So let me raise this to an elevation of 9440, and actually get some numbers in here. So I want to create a report for this particular elevation. So we've got a couple of other buttons up here that allow you to output information. So if I hit the one that looks like the piece of paper with the star in the top corner of it, that'll generate a report. And this is going to open up in Internet Explorer, and it's going to give you the report. So in this case, it's showing me the fill to level and the level to existing ground, and then the totals. So at this particular spot, I have this much dirt. That's a lot of dirt. Those mining guys, they do lots of dirt. Unfortunately, in Civil 3D, you only have 3 options for volumes: cubic feet, cubic yards, and cubic meters. I'd love to see something like cubic kilometers.
Yeah.
This would be like,
in the case of mining,
tenth of a cubic kilometer or something like that, right? Anyways. It also tells you, some information, and if you want, you can save this as open up in Word and modify it. It just saves it as an HTML. So as you can see, it just saves it as actually an XML file here. So you can open that up in Internet Explorer, all sorts of fun stuff. Another thing you can do is actually put text in the drawing, put information in the drawing. So I'm going to put a table in the drawing. So I insert a cut fill summary. I'm going to pick a spot, and it puts the table in my drawing. Cool. What is this? Well, if you're used to Civil 3D, you're thinking, oh, if I come over here and I make some changes, this table's going to change. No, it's not, unfortunately. This, well, it's not even a table. This is a block. So it creates an unnamed block and inserts it in here. If you explode this, you get a bunch of little pieces of text. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed for the next release, that this will be a little bit more dynamic. But right now, that's what we have. So hopefully that answers your question, Calvin.
Kelvin is laughing out loud right at the moment. Any other questions? Eric, I still see yours here, so it looks like...
Yeah, Eric, I think we're going to have to hold off on that question. That's one of those tricky things when you're doing, subsurface, cutting down the topsoil and those types of things. It's something I'll have to think about. I don't feel comfortable giving you an answer right now, so
okay.
We'll have to hold off on that one.
Well, we'll explore that a little bit.
Yeah.
Anyway, did want to mention just kind of impromptu here that Autodesk and CAD-1 are co-sponsoring on August 28th, and then again on the 29th. On August 28th, we will have an oil and gas technology day that will explore a lot of geospatial planning, Civil 3D, and plant process and design technologies that Autodesk has come out with for the industry. That will be on the 28th at the Autodesk offices in Greenwood Village. And on the 29th, we will have a similar day with mining technologies. Some very good speakers there. We don't have a slide for that, but if you'd like to attend, it is no charge. So contact Kelly Merrill here at the office. She's overseeing that. And she can help you. 303-427-2231. You probably won't remember that number, but you can find us. Give us a call. We'll sign you up. So anything else that you want to close with, Brian?
No, I think that does it. I want to say to everybody, thank you for showing up. We had quite a good turnout in attendance.
And Robert squeaked through the door with the question at the last second. So can the volumes display without decimals and with 1,000 commas?
So you're talking about the display here. Talking about this display here, Robert. You'd like to see that without the hundreds, so just to the nearest 1 cubic yard, and maybe throw some commas in there. I can change the precision, but unfortunately I can't put the commas in. So if you need to change the precision, that's part of your drawing settings. So under the Settings tab on your prospector, edit the drawing settings. Under your ambient settings, you can change information for volume. So as I was saying before, there are only 3 options we had. Right? Cubic meter, cubic feet, and cubic yard. I can change precision to 0. And then, hopefully, if I did this right, yep, you don't have the thousands or hundreds or tenths or whatever you had before. I don't know of any way to get it to display with commas, though.
All right. Thank you very much, and have a good rest of Thursday. And we'll talk to you soon. Thank you.